So now we've finally come to the section where we're working with loop carousels and loop grids. And like I said, these are really powerful features because up until these were introduced, there was no way to dynamically inject and loop through custom post types. The only things that we could loop through would be stuff like your blogs and bits like products if you was using WooCommerce. But now we can literally loop through any kind of custom post type using these two features. So really, really powerful stuff. But just before we get into that, I do want to add just a handful of new custom fields to each of our case studies. So let's come back to Manage Website. And then under the ACF plugin, we want to select field groups. And then underneath the case studies field group, let's just come along and start adding a few more fields. So the first thing that I want to add on is going to be a field label of number of staff involved. Don't know why I capitalized all of that because this isn't on the front end. This is just the back end. So number of staff involved. And then this is going to be a number. So that is all fine there. Let's set that validation to required. And then let's add one more field. So the next field is again going to be a number, and this is going to be the duration. So how long it took to build. So field name, duration, validation, required, and then one last thing here. Let's go ahead and again make this a number, and this is going to be budget. So the budget for this project. And that is fine. Let's change that validation to required, and then let's save changes. So with those changes now saved, let's quickly come along to our case studies and just edit each of these so that we've got all of those fields actually added in there. So we will see now that we've got these new options here. So number of staff involved for consciously inspired, let's say 2, duration, let's say 5. These are going to be in weeks, let's say. Now, of course, if you wanted to, we can set instructions under them field groups, right? So we can actually say what we want them to specify here. So under edit here, presentation, instructions, number of staff, please specify how many staff were involved. That would be fine for that one. Then for the duration, under the presentation, please specify can't spell at all today. Please specify the number of weeks to complete. And say that we just wanted to leave it as that, because what I am going to do is just leave this as a single number, and it's just going to be how many weeks. So let's say that this was a 3 week, and then the budget, let's say that this was £800. So a very simple blog. So that is all now done. Let's update that. Let's come along to Friendly Turtle. Let's say number of staff involved was 9, duration was 12 weeks, and the budget was £22,000. So let's update. Let's come along to the final one, Better Life Design. Let's now say that we had 3 staff, duration was 4 weeks, and the budget was £2,000. Let's update that. Because now, if we come to our case studies, when we start working with this loop grid, we're going to create a new loop template that is going to be used, and it's going to loop through each of those templates within the carousel or the grid. So let's finally start doing that now. So let's select the plus. We want to go with a horizontal container, and within that container, let's drag one more container. Now within that container, we want to add one more element, and this time we're going to be working with the loop grid. So the loop grid is added on there. So the only difference between the loop grid and the loop carousel is actually the carousel loops through it, as in it moves, right? So the slides it slides through each of the results. You can specify the number of slides that you want it to slide through, and it will go away and do just that. Whereas the loop grid will be more like just a static listing, or in a grid format, of all of those all of those custom post types that we want to display. So this will make more sense as we start typing, but we are actually going to go ahead and create a new template for our grid. But at this point, I don't want to run into the next lesson, which is probably going to be quite a long one. So let's go ahead and stop this lesson here, and we'll pick up the template for our loop grid in the next lesson.